The silent arrival, the message from the Galactic Council, arrived on a Tuesday, which seemed oddly mundane for the day humanity learned it was about to be erased from existence. Commander Sarah Chun stood in the United Earth Defense Headquarters, her dark eyes scanning the translated text for the third time, hoping she'd misunderstood something fundamental about alien syntax. She hadn't. Species 7734, designated humanity, has been deemed a Class X threat to galactic stability. The message read in sterile, translated prose. Your expansion rate, technological advancement curve, and documented history of internal warfare indicate a 97.3% probability of future galactic disruption. Termination protocols will commence in 7 solar rotations. 7 days. The universe had given humanity 7 days to exist. Sarah's fingers drummed against the holographic display table, a habit she developed during her years commanding Earth's first deep space defense fleet. Around her, the Emergency Council had gathered scientists, military leaders, philosophers, and even a few artists who'd somehow made it onto the essential personnel list. The room buzzed with barely controlled panic, voices overlapping in a dozen languages despite the universal translators. We could negotiate, suggested Dr. Yuki Tanaka, Earth's lead xenobiologist. Her usually steady voice carried a tremor that betrayed her fear. Surely any advanced civilization would understand the value of diversity, of giving us a chance to prove ourselves. General Marcus Webb, a mountain of a man who'd seen too many wars, shook his head grimly. They've made their decision based on probability algorithms. To them, we're not people. We're statistics. Bad ones. Sarah raised her hand, and the room fell silent. In the months since first contact, she'd earned the respect of Earth's fractured nations through sheer competence and awe, an uncanny ability to think like both a soldier and a diplomat. Now, that dual nature would be tested beyond anything humanity had faced. They're wrong about us, she said quietly, but her voice carried to every corner of the room. They've calculated our threat level based on our history, our conflicts, our chaos. But they've missed something fundamental about humanity. She paused, meeting the eyes of each council member. They've never seen what we become when our backs are against the wall. When the entire species faces extinction, we don't fragment, we harmonize. Dr. James Okonkwo, the Nigerian physicist who'd cracked faster-than-light communication, leaned forward. Commander, their technology is centuries beyond ours. Our entire fleet couldn't scratch one of their scout ships. Then we don't fight with ships, Sarah replied, a strange smile playing at her lips. Dr. Okonkwo, what do you know about resonance? Frequencies? The physicist's eyes widened as understanding dawned. Every material has one. Find the right frequency, and you can shatter diamond with sound alone. And Dr. Tanaka, Sarah continued, turning to the xenobiologist, what did your team discover about the Galactic Council species' sensory capabilities? They're highly sensitive to electromagnetic radiation across spectrums we can barely perceive. Their communication methods are based on complex wave patterns that Tanaka trailed off, her face lighting up. Commander, are you suggesting what I think you're suggesting? Sarah nodded. The Galactic Council made one critical error in their calculations. They measured our weapons, our ships, our nuclear arsenals, but they never measured our souls. They don't understand music, art, emotion, the very things they see as weaknesses, as signs of our chaotic nature. She gestured to Marcus Webb. General, I need every broadcasting station on Earth linked within 48 hours. Radio, television, internet, satellite, everything. For what purpose? Webb asked, though his tactical mind was already working through the logistics. We're going to show them what humanity really is. Not through weapons or words, but through the one thing that makes us unique in this cold, calculating galaxy. Sarah's voice rose with conviction. We're going to play them our song. The next 5 days blurred together in a frenzy of preparation, unlike anything Earth had seen. The plan was insane, built on hope and desperation in equal measure, but it was uniquely human in its audacity. Musicians from every corner of the globe were brought together, from symphony orchestras to throat singers, from electronic artists to indigenous drummers. Scientists worked around the clock to modify broadcasting equipment, tuning frequencies to penetrate the electromagnetic shields of the approaching fleet. The Galactic Council's armada arrived exactly on schedule, appearing at the edge of the solar system like a storm cloud of metal and energy. 300 ships, each one large enough to dwarf Earth's moon, arranged in perfect geometric formation. Their hulls gleamed with an otherworldly sheen that seemed to bend light around them, making them difficult to look at directly. Admiral Zex Theta of the Vorthane Empire commanded the fleet from the flagship. Inevitable logic. In his 300 cycles of service, he had overseen the termination of 17 species deemed too dangerous for the galactic community. It was not a duty he relished, but one he performed with the cold efficiency his position demanded. Species 7734 has made no attempt at evacuation. His tactical officer reported, sensory tendrils flickering with confusion. They appeared to be broadcasting something. Military codes? Zex Theta asked, his forearms folding in contemplation. Negative, Admiral. The patterns are unusual. Rhythmic, mathematical, yet chaotic. Our systems cannot classify them. Zex Theta's? Specialized eyes, capable of seeing across 12 spectrums simultaneously, turned toward the blue marble of Earth. Perhaps a final message, recorded for the archives. Commence primary bombardment in. The sound hit them like a physical wave. It wasn't sound as the Vorthane understood it, mere vibrations in atmosphere. This was something else entirely, broadcast across every frequency simultaneously, penetrating their shields as if they weren't there. The Admiral's sensory organs, so finely tuned to detect the slightest electromagnetic anomaly, were suddenly overwhelmed with something they had no frame of reference for. It was Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, performed by 8,000 musicians, simultaneously, broadcast through 10 million modified transmitters, and carried on frequencies that bypassed physical matter entirely. But it was more than music. It was human emotion given form, raw and powerful, and absolutely undeniable. The bridge of the inevitable logic erupted in chaos. Officers clutched at their sensory organs, not in pain, but in something far more disturbing to their ordered minds. They were feeling. The mathematical precision of the music carried with it something their species had evolved beyond millions of years ago. Pure, overwhelming emotion, joy, sorrow, hope, defiance, love, fear, triumph. All of it crashed over them in waves, each note carrying the weight of humanity's entire existence. Every struggle, every victory, every moment of beauty and horror that had shaped the species the Galactic Council had deemed too dangerous to live. Make it stop, one officer cried out, her usually monotone voice cracking with something that might have been panic or ecstasy. But Zex Theta couldn't give the order. He was frozen, his consciousness overwhelmed by visions he couldn't understand. A human child, laughing, an elderly couple holding hands, soldiers carrying wounded enemies to safety, artists painting sunsets, scientists weeping with joy at discovery. The music carried it all, forcing him to see humanity not as statistics and probabilities, but as individuals, each one containing multitudes. The symphony continued, joined now by voices, 8 billion humans singing in harmony, their combined will focused into a single message that transcended language. We are here. We matter. We choose to live. Asterisk. The resonance war the music shifted, morphing from Beethoven into something unprecedented. Earth's greatest musical minds had spent days crafting what they called the human anthem, a piece that incorporated elements from every musical tradition on the planet. Mongolian throat singing merged with African drums. Indian sitars danced with Scottish bagpipes. Electronic synthesizers supported Andean flutes. It should have been chaos, but somehow, impossibly, it worked. On the bridge of the inevitable logic, Admiral Zex Theta struggled to maintain his composure as the new wave of sound washed over his fleet. His tactical display showed something extraordinary. Across all 300 ships, similar scenes were playing out. Crews designed for emotionless efficiency were experiencing something their species had abandoned eons ago in favor of pure logic. Admiral, his science officer, managed to vocalize through what appeared to be the Vorthane equivalent of tears. The harmonic frequencies are causing resonance cascades in our shield generators. If this continues, the shields flickered and died across the entire fleet simultaneously. Sarah Chun watched from Earth's command center as the alien armada's defenses crumbled. Phase 2, she ordered. Send the message. This time, it wasn't music that reached the alien fleet, but voices. 8 billion humans speaking in rotation, each telling their story in their own language. The universal translators aboard this Galactic Council ships worked overtime, processing not just words, but the emotion behind them. A farmer in Kenya spoke of watching the sunrise over his fields. A teacher in Japan described the moment a struggling student finally understood a difficult concept. A child in Brazil talked about her dreams of becoming an astronaut. A grandmother in Russia shared her recipe for borscht and the memories it carried of her own grandmother. Story after story, life after life, humanity poured itself into the void, refusing to be reduced to numbers in an algorithm. Admiral Zex Theta found himself listening to a particular voice, a young human male, perhaps in his 20th cycle, speaking about his fear of death, but greater fear of never having truly lived. The Admiral's 4 hands trembled as he remembered his own youth, before the conditioning, when his species still knew what it meant to fear and hope. "Sir," his communications officer interrupted, "we're receiving a transmission from the human." "Commander." Sarah Chun's face appeared on the main view screen, her expression calm, but her eyes burning with determination. "Admiral Zex Theta, I'm Commander Sarah Chun of Earth. I believe you've been experiencing our response to your termination order. This is unprecedented," Zex Theta managed, his voice unsteady. "These wavelengths, these patterns, they're weapons?" Sarah almost smiled. "No, Admiral. They're not weapons. They're who we are. Every song, every story, every emotion you're feeling, that's humanity. That's what you came here to destroy." "Your species is chaotic," Zex Theta said, struggling to return to the cold logic that had defined his existence. "Unpredictable. The calculations clearly show." "Your calculations are based on incomplete data," Sarah interrupted. "Yes, we're chaotic. Yes, we've fought wars among ourselves. But chaos isn't just destruction. It's creation. It's art, music, love, innovation. You've measured our capacity for violence, but ignored our capacity for beauty." She paused, then continued with quiet intensity. "Your species, the Vorthane, gave up emotion for logic. The Zealothi traded passion for order. The Kreen eliminated uncertainty for predictability. And in doing so, you all stopped growing. You've had the same technology for millennia, the same social structures, the same everything. You've achieved peace by becoming stagnant." The truth of her words hit Zex Theta like a physical blow. When was the last time the Galactic Council had innovated? When had they created something truly new, rather than simply refining what already existed? "We propose an alternative," Sarah continued. "Instead of termination, partnership. Humanity offers what the galaxy has lost: creativity, passion, the chaos that drives evolution and growth. In return, you share your knowledge, your wisdom, your stability. Together, we become something greater than either could be alone. Zex Theta's tactical display showed something else now, his crew's vital signs. For the first time in recorded history, Vorthane's stress levels were at 0, not the forced calm of their conditioning, but genuine peace. The music had done something their technology couldn't. It had healed wounds they didn't know they carried. "This is highly irregular," Zex Theta said slowly. "The Council will need to deliberate." He was cut off by his communications officer. "Admiral, we're receiving transmissions from the other ships. They're requesting permission to maintain the music feed." For 300 years, Zex Theta had followed orders without question. But as Beethoven's Ode to Joy began playing again, mixed now with 1,000 other Earth songs, he made the first truly independent decision of his life. "Stand down all weapons," he commanded, "and open a channel to the Galactic Council. Tell them, tell them, we need to reconsider our evaluation metrics." The response from the Council was swift and predictable. Threats of court-martial, warnings of contamination, orders to complete the mission immediately. But something extraordinary happened. The crews of all 300 ships, experiencing emotion for the first time in their species' memory, refused. It wasn't mutiny in the traditional sense. They simply stated with perfect logic that the mission parameters were based on flawed data and required reevaluation. The music had given them something they didn't know they'd lost, the ability to question. Over the following days, Earth became a pilgrimage site. Ships from across the galaxy arrived, drawn by rumors of the emotion broadcasts. Species that had abandoned feeling millennia ago came to remember what they'd lost. The Zealothi, geometric beings of pure energy, found themselves moved to tears they couldn't physically cry. The Kreen, a hive mind that had achieved perfect unity at the cost of individuality, discovered jazz and suddenly understood the beauty of improvisation. Sarah Chun stood in the newly constructed Interstellar Cultural Exchange Center, watching as a young Vorthane attempted to play a guitar with 4 arms. The sound was terrible, but the joy on the alien's face was unmistakable. "You've weaponized art," Admiral Zex Theta said, approaching her. He'd remained on Earth as an ambassador, finding himself unable to leave the source of these new sensations. "No," Sarah replied. "We've shared our superpower. Every species in the galaxy evolved past emotion to achieve spaceflight. You saw feelings as weakness, as something to overcome. But humans? We rode our emotions to the stars. Our fear drove us to explore. Our wonder made us reach further. Our love made us bring others with us." She gestured to the scene before them. Dozens of alien species learning Earth instruments, sharing their own dormant cultural traditions, creating something entirely new. This is what you almost destroyed. Not just humanity, but the possibility of growth, of change, of becoming more than what we are. Zex Theta's 4 arms moved in what he learned was similar to a human nod. The Council has voted. Humanity is to be reclassified from Class X threat to Class Prime catalyst. You're being offered full membership with a unique mandate to remind the galaxy how to feel. Sarah smiled, but it was tinged with irony. All it took was threatening our extinction to show you we're worth keeping around. Perhaps, Zex Theta admitted, but isn't that uniquely human? Performing best when the stakes are highest? As if to underscore his point, the center's sound system began playing a new composition, a fusion of Earth music and alien, harmonics that no one species could have created alone. It was beautiful and chaotic, ordered and wild, logical and emotional. It was the sound of the galaxy learning to feel again. And at its heart, driving the melody forward with characteristic stubborn determination, was the beating rhythm of humanity. Chaotic, unpredictable, and absolutely refusing to be silenced. The last symphony of Earth had become the first symphony of a new galactic age. Asterisk.